Hello, welcome back to Let's Run Shadowrun, Hong Kong. Now, let's see here. We have just gone through with one of our missions. I'm saving this karma up because I want to get that gangland etiquette, and I need one more point of karma to get to that 6 charisma right there. Not right there, right there. That's a lot for a street samurai, but it's becoming problematic. It's a mistake I made from when I built her to begin with, and then the rest will start going into heavy, into body, and especially body because it has cyberware affinity, strength, and quickness. We have some money, so I could go get some more cyberware implants, but I don't think I'm going to. And mission items. Okay. We can go to the hotel to help Xin Yang blackmail Neville Ma that we're not supposed to, do anything violent. That's a no violence thing. We can go to the Emperor's Tomb Museum to liberate artifacts. That one's definitely probably going to be fighting all over the place. Travel to the Sky Tower to damage Wu Jing. Incorporate its feng shui. We're probably going to have to bring Gobbet on that. We maybe have that adept with us. Head to DECCON 2056 for Isabel's job, and optional get some rest. There is also, before we do any of that, I could go down and talk to the guy down there, and I probably should. But before I do that, I should also see where Gaichu is. But before I do that, we're going to go find Maximum Law. He's around here somewhere. I think he's over here. Yep. Law's Techno Palace. Because Law sent us an email having a job for us. Hello, Maximum Law. What is your... sprite look like? It doesn't look quite the same as you do. Oh, maybe he does. There's a bandana. Maximum Law surveys the docks from beneath his meticulously patched tarpaulin. Goggled and belted with electronics, his arms folded, his expression stern. A sweat-drenched little king. His boat rocks gently. As you approach, he looks sharply your way and breaks into an awkward smile. Hey, Noel. I was hoping you'd come around. You got a minute? What's up? Kindly had Wampoa burn your sin. Word is you're doing work for her, not normal Yellow Lotus stuff. Law shifts from foot to foot. He fidgets with the hardware on his belt. Shadowrun. Woman's got to eat. I'm doing whatever's... Maybe. Maybe not. What about it? I get it. Well, I didn't hear anything about it. Law smiles tightly like a conspirator. Listen, if you've got info about runs, I can make it worth something. We Wampoans call that kind of thing metadata. Wampoa likes to get the word on the street from the active operators. Oh. Doesn't Wampoa's service to the clientele include not prying? It's not prying. Law speaks with authority. He thrusts his chest out, puts his hands on his hips. It's gathering information. The world runs on information. If you've got metadata for me, great. If not, see if I care. Law looks out through the rain across the rocking boats. He wipes his foggy goggle lenses with a rag from his pocket. His stomach gurgles loudly. Augmented reality goggles aside, this gig gets really boring sometimes. You ever want to talk shop? I'm here. So, okay. Why are you wearing VR goggles? Here we go. I found this while poking around. Worth anything? Like I said, I'll take it off your hands for 120. Sure, take it. Hope it finds a good home. Yeah. Well, I'll sample it first. But these cowhots can send you for a trip. Don't worry, I can handle my sins. Okay. Tell me, looks like you've got some dangerously exposed wires over there. Yo, what are you? My mother? Law regards you with skeptical disgust. Those wires are fine where they are. High and dry. They're only a problem for someone who does something stupid. I'm running a high bandwidth tech operation. Do I look like I have time to tape copper and sip tea? No, I don't. Law wraps his knuckles fiercely on a clear-topped case of buses, cables, and cable harnesses. These are the only wires you need to think about. That is an amazingly ostentatious holosign you've got. Yo! Maxwell looks up at the gigantic blue-white letters with deep satisfaction. It's pretty, boss. That must cost you a small fortune in electricity. Whatever, I'm not paying for it. Half of Haoi gets its juice from a pirate tap on a big Mitsuhama DC cable under the river. Mitsuhama's like... His voice winds up into a mocking whine. Oh, let's run 2 million volts from the cold fusion plant to the island under the river. Those slum monkeys can't tap an underwater cable. Oh, idiots. I should have done a different voice, because with him mocking somebody would be more high-pitched. You know who built that tap that pulls electricity off the cable? Pompoa. You know whose barge holds the transformer? Mine. Maximum Law thrusts his fist high in the air in a silent victory. Cheap power for all, and a whole lot of extra for me. Behold the lighthouse of Boom. Why are you wearing VR goggles? It's not VR, it's augmented reality. We're pioneering it. Little cameras, matrix overlay. I can support a 3-dimensional HUD and sub-windows with live multiple feeds. Yeah, curiously enough, augmented reality... The game was originally came out in the late 80s. So it's a concept of internet and cyberware and all that. It's very 80s, 90s. Which is why you have BBSs and the chat logs and stuff like that. So the augmented reality is a very recent add-in to the setting. And this part of the timeline, it wouldn't be regularly available, regularly present just yet. But it would have people experimenting with it. So that makes sense. And sub-windows with live multiple feeds. I've got a command shell open right now. I'm networked with 5 guys. Law taps his goggles. Wave of the future. I don't have Decky. Okay. I hear a lot of corps are experimenting with it, but not in such a socially invasive way. Don't have that, so can't say it. Techie's trying to proxy for astral perception with gadgets. Cute. Wave of the future, huh? A future where you can look like you can't look anyone in the eye and you resemble a B-grade sci-fi character? I'm going to do sounds interesting. It is. Law says it with supreme confidence, a statement of perfect fact. It is interesting. Let me see what you got. You're a Decker shop, so not really interested in what you have. I mean, I could buy something new for Isabel, but I don't think I will. See you later, Law. You gotta go? Okay, watch your back and shoot straight and all. Law grins at you and dexterously flashes a hand sign that Shadowrunners give each other in HoloVid shows. I got things to do, too. Okay, so, yeah, you don't really know what you're doing. Okay, so you did not have a mission for us. So I am going to go take that optional objective, which I hope will generate optional experience points. Are you guys still talking? You're not still talking. Okay. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to go down into the basement first. Because I haven't talked to the Rigger or Gaichu yet. There's you. Where is Gaichu? Racter, that's his name. Racter's shop is sweltering hot, even more so than it was the first time you stepped inside. The whir of actuators accompanies the fine motions of the manipulator arms that hang from the ceiling. They are turning an object over and over in their articulated hands, soldering wires and hammering rivets. Ah, my friend, welcome back. Racter types a series of commands into his bracer, and the arms relax into an idle position. He smiles at you, a cigarette dangling from his lip. There, that's better. Now what can I do for you? How are you getting along with the other members of the team? Perfectly well, thank you. They all seem confident enough. And and there haven't been any major personality conflicts so far. He rubs his chin thoughtfully. So long as they continue performing to an acceptable standard, I can see no reason not to continue our arrangement. It's good to run with a team again. Sure, all right. What do you think of them personally? They're fine, I suppose, all fine. Gobbet is quite charming. Isabel keeps to herself, and Duncan is doing his best in a bad situation. Kaichu is quite intriguing. I'm very pleased that the team is willing to overlook his unfortunate condition. Many in the shadows wouldn't. There is a momentary pause. He shrugs, and that, I'm afraid, is all I have to say. Apologies if you were looking for more. You're still something of a mystery to the group. Racter, mind if I ask you a few questions? No, I don't mind at all. He takes a drag on his cigarette, then slowly releases the smoke. I can't promise that my answers will satisfy your curiosity, of course, but you may certainly ask. What was it like growing up in the Russian Republic? Tumultuous, as you might expect. You probably aren't old enough to remember the Euro Wars, but I am. I know bits and pieces of history, but I didn't live through it. Ah, well, the wars were formative experiences for Russians of my generation. Not traumatic per se, certainly not as they were for the Germans, Finns, and Poles, but important nonetheless. My country was the instigator of the first Euro War back in '30. I remember the rhetoric, the hardships of living under a wartime economy, the rampant xenophobia that took hold. I remember how we all cheered when our forces invaded Poland. 3 months, that was all that it took for our military to crush what meager resistance the Poles could bring to bear. It was quite the source of national pride at home. I remember our drive into Germany and the desperate bid to reclaim the eastern portion of that country for ourselves. Just think about the symbolic significance of such an act. An audacious move, to be sure, but Secretary Kropotkin was determined to make history. You're talking about the overthrow of a sovereign nation, not a maneuver in a chess game. Yeah, same way Stalin was. I believe that Kropotkin was more concerned with the opinions of his own people than he was with his place in the history books, and in truth, I cannot fault him for this. For the 4 months that the war lasted, he did bring the country together, but alas, the Night Wraith incident put an end to our march and sent our forces into full retreat. Night Wraith? British-made fighter bombers with stealth capabilities, very state-of-the-art, very powerful. At least that's what they were purported to have been. Nobody has ever come forward to accept responsibility for the attack. Regardless of who was behind it, the result was the same, wave upon wave of bombings that targeted our forces and the Germans alike. Coupled with the assassinations of dozens of military leaders, a devastating synchronized operation expertly carried out over the course of a single night. At home, vital attacks shut down our power grids. Hundreds of thousands of Russian homes found themselves without heat or electricity in the dead of winter. That's not good. Crochet scuttles forward, allowing the rigger to rest his hand on the sloping metal of its chassis. Racter stares at his own deformed reflection in the metal of the drone's body, a sad smile on his face. I remember huddling under a mountain of cheap blankets that my mother had piled up on my bed. They did little to protect me from the cold, but there was something that I could hang on to, something tangible that I associated with warmth and comfort and home. There, as my body trembled, I watched my breath frost over, a horrible truth descended upon me. We had caused this. We were the villains of the First Euro War. For the first time I came face to face with what Kropotkin's folly had bought us, and there, under that ridiculous heap of rags, I came to realize what would surely come to pass. The world thought us villains, and so they would treat us like villains. We would be the pariahs on the international stage, crippled by retributive sanctions. We would never live down the shame. He wipes his hands as if cleaning them, a wry smile spreads across his face. And then AFA invaded Greece and Spain, sparking off Euro War II. We redeployed our troops to help repel them, and all was made right again. I have to imagine you still had enemies, Ian. Oh, no, let's not be wordy with her. I keep leaning towards wordy because that's my natural inclination, but I'm trying to keep her snarky and short sentences. That easy, huh? About. Oh, we were still regarded with suspicion, of course, but Europe might have fallen if it hadn't been for our help. In essence, we took back our reputation at gunpoint. Not an ideal solution, but it worked. Within the span of 4 months, we Russians had gone from nobodies to a terrible threat to unlikely saviors in the eyes of the Western world. Studying exactly how this happened has taught me a great deal about human psychology and social dynamics. You say that as if you weren't one. Just a figure of speech, my friend, nothing more. Now, shall we talk about something else? Surely there are more interesting and relevant things to discuss. You mentioned that the Second Year War was sparked off by the AFA? Who were they? He takes a long drag on his cigarette. Ah, yes, I suppose you wouldn't know. They were only active for the years surrounding the conflict, after all. So sometimes these things are just flavor background text, and sometimes they're actually important to the side missions that you'll get later. The AFA was the Alliance for Allah, serving under Mullah Saeed Jaznir, a coalition of right-wing Middle Eastern governments that assembled after the failure, some say sabotage, of the United Islamic Conference. They looked to a weakened Europe and saw an opportunity, one that my country was entirely responsible for creating. So the AFA invaded Europe, but Russia was really to blame. Yes, I cannot blame the AFA for acting as they did. Ultimately, they chose the same path that any hawkish power would have taken, given their circumstances. It would have been foolish of them not to. My country, on the other hand, was guilty as sin. We were the ones who blazed the trail. So what happened? Well, I take it you beat them. I mean, I haven't heard of the AFA before, so things can't have ended well for them. So what happened? How did the war end? The AFA folded in 37 after Jazir's assassination, a lucky thing for us, too. The body count could have been a great deal higher. In the years that they were active, AFA gave us a hell of a fight. Did you immigrate directly from Russia to Hong Kong? No, between my years in Nizhny Novgorod, I can't say that word. I need to look it up to see how it's pronounced. And my time here in Haoi, I spent a year in the free city of Berlin. That was where I got my feet wet as a Shadowrunner, you see. I ran with a team of anarchists for a time and learned the ropes of the occupation under tutelage. Can you tell me about that team of yours? He shrugs. A good group of people, disorganized to be sure, but capable. Sadly, we are no longer on the best of terms. Okay. An opportunity arose, and I seized it. In so doing, I left Berlin for Hong Kong, and I did so without much advance notice. My absence made life difficult for them, and they blamed me for their hardships. You did what you had to do. Yes, that's right. While my departure may have caused complications for my former teammates, it wasn't personal. I haven't lost any sleep over my decision. In my position, any of them would have done the same. He looks away, a wistful expression on his face. Koshie scrapes the ground with its forelegs, its sensors fixed firmly on you. Ultimately, I would say that my time in Berlin was quite educational, different from my earlier life in Russia, to be sure. As I said, the experience was valuable. Ultimately, though, Haoi is probably better suited to my sensibilities. How so? Life in Hong Kong is more structured than it is in Berlin. Things make sense here in a way that the Flux state didn't. He taps a finger to his temple. I have an orderly mind. Everything in its place, neatly labeled and filed away. This approach is what allows me to make sense of the world. To say that the people I knew in Berlin thought differently would be an understatement. Why did you move from Russia to Berlin? He held his tongue for a moment, considering. When we first met, I told you I had parted ways with Grishin Aviacorps under unfortunate circumstances, yes? You mentioned it. These same circumstances led me to Berlin. I was wronged, and I would not find recourse in Russia. He sighs. I suppose that there's no sense in being vague. I will tell you the story if you want to hear it. Please, lay it on me. You may remember the self-repair system I mentioned the first time we met, the module that would allow Koshie or any sufficiently equipped drone to repair itself. I told you that my research had been lost. That was not strictly true. It was stolen by a pair of colleagues who I long considered friends. They were researchers from my old lab. They turned against me, stole our work, in truth, my work, and defected. Why would they do that? They betrayed you, huh? Yes, driven by desperation, no doubt, and ambition. They'd always been fixated on getting out of Russia. Grishin Aviacorps was a nationalized corporation, and they would never get rich as cogs in a government-controlled machine. Get rich as cogs. Okay, Cogs in a government-controlled machine is the object. They would never get rich as if they remained cogs. Okay. In our project, they saw their key to breaking away and earning their fortunes. Never mind the fact that I was opposed to the idea, and so they took what was mine and left me with nothing. And so you followed them, I take it? Yes, the two had long spoken about moving to Berlin. Such was true of a great many academics in Russia. My homeland is a bureaucratic dictatorship, you see. There is little personal freedom. There are many rules to be followed. As you might imagine, the stable anarchy of the flux state can be an alluring concept to those who live under totalitarian rule. Berlin is much romanticized back home. So you assumed your former colleagues had run to Berlin. It was the only thing I had to go on. At best would find them, at worst it would be a good place to rebuild my life. And of course to establish the web of contacts that I would need to track my betrayers down. There's a squeal of tortured metal as Koschei drags its claws over the iron grating that covers the floor. Racter glances down at the drone, and it goes calm. He takes a deep breath and continues. I think you have a more complete connection to your drone than most riggers. It took me over a year to locate my former friends. It was a long, painstaking search, but I was nothing if not determined. I finally found evidence that they'd used my research as a bargaining chip to secure positions at Ares and that they were here in Hong Kong. Ah, so that's what brought you here. And so you came here to Haoi. He nods. I picked up and left the next day, and my old team was upset to be sure. Lucky Strike in particular howled for my blood. But I know where my priorities lie, and so here I am, and here they are, and soon I will be ready to act. I really must thank you for inviting me to the team. Your abilities will be invaluable when the time finally comes to make my move. Assuming, of course, that you'd be willing to help. Something tells me you weren't surprised when invited to the team. You were waiting for this, weren't you? I thought that it might go over better if you believed it to be your idea, and it would seem that I was right. I am on the team, after all. Yes, you are, and you're right. I, for one, would be happy to help you when you're ready. Just say the word. Thank you, my friend. But this is discussion for another day. We aren't ready to hit an Ares facility yet. There is more intelligence to gather before we make our move anyway. When the time comes, I will let you know. Stolen research means more to you than money, doesn't it? Yes, yes, much more. It was my life's work, and it was important. Reducing it to a bargaining chip was a deadly insult, both to me and all those who would benefit from my work. How important can it be? Allow me to answer your question with a question. Are you familiar with the concept of transhumanism, the transformation of humanity as a species by technological means? Broader than that, but yes. Okay. Um, Moving on to a new video. Conversation. Lots of conversation. Somebody did tell me that this one was wordier than the last few games, but it's proving so a little bit. But the story is quite nice. Anyway, moving on.